So let's assume there's a writing competition and you put two people in a room. Both have ChatGPT, one of them has the tips from this video, the other one doesn't. The one with these tips would win every single time, and it wouldn't even be close. Because it's been 2 months since I have been collecting tips and tricks on ChatGPT and other AI apps on a daily basis. And in this video, I'm gonna reveal to you 5 more secrets to writing with ChatGPT. We're gonna talk about customizing your style, remixing other people's styles, learning and talking to ChatGPT in an advanced manner. And in the end, I'll show you how to go beyond asking it just one killer prompt. So let's start exploring secret number 1. Customizing ChatGPT's output to match your very own style. And wait a minute. I know you might have heard of this, but I have an extra prompt coming here in a second that you might not have heard about yet. So if you're not familiar, a popular technique with ChatGPT is taking this line. By the way, this is from a page in the introduction of my ebook that teaches you how to use ChatGPT to mimic your own style. And if we simply copy paste this formula, we can place our own writing at the end of this. Analyze the text for style and tone of voice, apply that exact style and tone of voice to all of your future responses. So this is how you would begin to teach it your style. And what I'll do now is open up one of these emails that I wrote by myself and simply post it at the bottom of this prompt. Once you hit enter, ChatGPT comes back with an analysis of your style. The style is informal and personal with a conversational tone. The tone of voice is empathetic, relatable, and motivational. Understood. I'll respond using that style with that tone of voice. And now any other writing request I have will come back in that style. But wait, I got more. And now every other writing request that I make will be written in that exact style. So if I say, write me a 100-word email about the importance of a company trip to the zoo, look, it's informal, personal, conversational, and the tone of voice is relatable. Perfect. So one side note here is that this works best if you feed it the type of text that it's going to output. Makes sense, right? If you give it a dissertation and ask for an email, it's not going to perfectly match the styles.
Not great or terrible.
So what I would recommend is going up here and actually copying this very first prompt, storing it in some sort of note, and every time you want ChatGPT to write an email in your style, you simply start with this prompt and then continue by asking it for what you need. And it's gonna maintain your consistent style. All it takes is one good email that is really representative of you, and you can keep applying that template in the future. But here's a bonus tip. Let's say I take the second prompt, open up a new conversation, and say, in future responses, also occasionally, once every 3 sentences, apply the style of Borat.
What type of dog is this? This is a tortoise.
And it comes back and says, understood, I will now occasionally include a touch of humor in the style of Borat in my future responses, while maintaining a conversational tone. And with little add-ons like this, you can keep refining the style that will deliver the text to you. So let's go back and test it with the email that we tried generating before. And look at that, it actually ignored the Borat request. And this happens sometimes. Look, it's not perfect. You still have to keep your eyes open and keep going. So all I'll do here is follow up with, what about the Borat style request I made? Try again. And it does it. And although it's not perfect, as it uses his style in almost every single sentence, by pushing it into the direction of use it in every third, it's not all Borat anymore. And obviously this is a ridiculous example. You could do this with every single writer in the world and remix your own writing with his type of style. Okay, so next up I'm gonna show you how to improve your writing skill, not just the output, by using ChatGPT. So there's really 3 levels to using ChatGPT, right? You have the people that simply copy paste, then you have the people that copy paste and use it as a starting point and start remixing it with their own thoughts, ideas, and that is probably the best way to use it. But I want to introduce a third way, and that is going beyond level 2, which is really good already. It's using ChatGPT as a starting point, then remixing and adapting it. Plus, you open up a new ChatGPT window to gain some experiences to further remix ChatGPT. And this does take more time and effort, but it actually builds your skill of writing and creates better outputs over the long term. So let me show you 2 formulas that you can apply to use it on this third and most advanced level. How can I use insert style of writing to create successful insert output? So for example, let's do copywriting and outreach emails. And by asking it this educational type question, we can build our knowledge before we go in and use some other formulas to actually generate the outreach emails. In other words, you're doing a crash course on writing like this. It gives you some steps. Personalize the emails, clearly state the purpose and benefits in the subject line, make a clear call to action, keep the email concise, and proofread and test the email before sending it to a larger audience. Incredible advice for anybody entering a new arena. It doesn't have to be copywriting and outreach emails. Because now I know what to look for. But that's not it. I have another formula here that you can use to expand your knowledge of pretty much any domain. So it goes, give me examples of popular and then type of text as we're talking about writing. So I'll just replace type of text with outreach emails again. And in like a minute, I learned about best practices when writing outreach emails. Plus it gave me some of the main categories. Honestly, with maybe the exception of a seasoned professional sitting right next to you, there's there's no faster way to learning about a new subject than asking these two simple questions. And now you're ready to go ahead and make it write your outreach email, for example, but you already have a framework that you can use to judge the output and get better results. Okay, so let's move on to the next trick here, and that is that ChatGPT actually has a built-in capability to act like a conversational partner. Now, why would this be useful in writing? Well, let's have a look. If you go to my website, you might be aware that I have a weekly newsletter where I share new ChatGPT prompts, AI apps, and much more. And I'll link this below, but I set up an archive of all the newsletters, so for free you can just go on here, and if we open up week 4's newsletter, my prompt of the week was this interview simulator, and we can use that for writing too if we customize it a little bit. So we'll just go ahead and say, simulate a high-level interview for a chief copywriter by asking questions as if you're a potential employer. In this scenario, I'm taking the role of the employee, and you ask increasingly hard questions to screen my competence, but only after I respond. Start by introducing yourself.
It's Brittany, bitch.
And by the way, I'll put all this into the video's description, so if you go below, you can just copy paste and test everything that I introduced inside of this video. And look, by the way, chief copywriter doesn't have to be a real position. ChatGPT is great at inferring context, so it knows what you mean if you use expressive words like chief. And now you can start having a conversation here, and let's just say you're fully honest with it, and you say, honestly, I have not done much copywriting in the past, but I would love to learn. And look, during the third response, you might already realize why I recommend you do this when approaching new topics. This framework of talking to somebody that is trying to hire you for a position that maybe you have no business in taking, but you're trying to accomplish the task. In this example, you're trying to become a better copywriter. This ChatGPT job interviewer starts bringing up some of the right questions that you can then ask. And what I mean by that is these little snippets, like, can you discuss how you stay current with industry trends and techniques for copywriting? Whoa, that's a fantastic question. You can just go ahead and ask ChatGPT. And guess what? Now I take this output, which is fantastic advice, by the way, and I send it back as an interview response. And remember, we set this up so the interviewer asks increasingly hard questions. So what I can do here again is take his hard question and input this into the other thread on ChatGPT. Now you can already see where this is going, right? I'm using ChatGPT to talk to itself to generate increasingly useful responses. And all of this is invaluable information. And as you can see, we can just keep going here, and we'll just keep getting better and harder questions on our topic and better and more detailed responses to learn from. And I'm so excited about this one because the combination of hard questions and ChatGPT answering them is one of the best ways I discovered to use ChatGPT to learn new skills, like any category of writing. But that's not all. Wait, I have 2 more secrets here. So look, this next one is super short and simple. So as we discussed in the last video, you can go ahead and say in the style of, let's just use good old Borat again. Waddle around all day, so funny. Look at that, very admirable, like Boris in fight against COVID. Oh boy, look at some of this output. Penguins, best birds. But what I want to show you here is you can go a step further than simply saying in the style of Borat by adding with a PhD in zoology. So now it's not just gonna be Borat, but it's gonna be Borat with a PhD in zoology. And look, I like these ridiculous examples because when it works with Borat, where it has a very limited data set it learned from, it's gonna work with every writer where it consumed multiple volumes of their work to analyze their style. And look, these results are great. Their unique adaptations make them perfectly suited for aquatic environments. And given it's not perfect, as I said, Borat is one of those examples where it just doesn't have enough data to do it perfectly. But if you look at the last 2 sentences, it really sounds like Borat completed his PhD in zoology. Their social behavior and huddling tactics conserve heat in their chilly habitats. Ah yes, penguins, truly impressive creatures. So yes, please go ahead and try it with someone meaningful, and you'll be rewarded with some incredible results. Okay, time for my last ChatGPT writing secret here, but before we do that, I want to give you a bonus tip. Actually, 100 bonus tips. If you haven't done so yet, you can go to this URL and sign up for free to my weekly newsletter and get this mini ebook that has over 100 prompts for you to try out right away. That's 34 pages packed with practical examples like the ones we discussed in this very video. And it's completely free. And then if you enjoy the mini ebook and you want even more prompts, you can go ahead and buy my full ebook, which is simply put 4 times the content of this mini version. Plus I have a German version now too. And if you want to buy it on Amazon because that's your thing, you can do that too now. But now let's talk about my last tip, and that is use good follow-up prompts. So as you can see, the more advanced we get with our prompting, the longer the conversation goes. And that's really the secret to being good with ChatGPT. You have to be able how to interface with it, how to talk to it in order to get more precise and relevant results to you. So let's just rerun the essay about penguins in the style of Bukowski with a PhD in zoology. And I'm going to give you 3 super useful follow-up prompts. So the first one would connect to the last thing we discussed, and that is changing the style after the fact. So by saying now in the style of Dostoevsky, we get the same text in a different style. But this one you might have figured out by your own. I just wanted to illustrate what a follow-up prompt is. Let me give you a super super useful one that I use all the time. 2 words. Try again. Because as you might know, ChatGPT writes this text by predicting the next token, which is something in between a letter and a word. What that means in practice is that every output is different, as it's not predicting the entire text, but it's simply going token by token. So by hitting it with try again, you're gonna get different outputs every single time you do that. Unless it's overloaded and super slow again, I guess. And there you go, that works every time. But I have one more follow-up prompt here that you need to know of. So when you ask ChatGPT for long text, it used to get stuck, but now it tells you that 1,000 words is simply too long. But what you can do is say, write me the first 500 words of a 1,000 word essay. And with this little workaround, it does it. And then as my final follow-up prompt, you just tell it, keep going. And it will keep expanding on its last thoughts. Not bad, right?
Not bad, not bad.
So if you learned anything new, hit that like button, get the free ebook and the free newsletter, and check out this video, which is gonna expand your AI advantage even further than all the tricks that we just went through.